Night settled slowly over the medieval city. Cold air moved through narrow streets. Stone walls held moisture. Wooden doors stayed shut. Inside a small house, a man lay still on a rough bed. A candle burned low. Every breath sounded heavy, wet, and slow. No one in the room spoke. They had heard this sound before. In the medieval world, this sound meant danger. It meant the chest had turned against the body. The man had been fine days earlier. It had started with a chill, a light cough, nothing unusual. Cold was common. Everyone lived with it. But this cough did not leave. It sank deeper. Breathing became harder. The chest felt full, as if air had nowhere to go. People believed the cold itself had entered his body. They believed night air carried death. They believed dampness could rot the lungs from the inside. No one spoke of disease. No one spoke of infection. They only watched. By morning, the candle had burned out. The man did not wake. Deaths like this were not rare. They were feared. In medieval times, many illnesses came with pain or blood. This one came with silence. People often died in their sleep. No scream, no warning. Families would wake to still bodies and blue lips. The chest would not rise again. They believed the cold had won. This fear shaped how people lived. Winter was not just uncomfortable, it was dangerous. Cold air was treated as an enemy. Wet clothes were seen as deadly. Sleeping near open windows was believed to invite death. People did not know the lungs could fill with fluid. They did not know breathing could slowly fail. They only knew this: once the chest grew heavy, few survived. Stories spread through cities and villages, of men who coughed for days, of children who stopped breathing overnight, of elders who never made it through winter. This illness had no name, but everyone knew its face. It came quietly. It waited. Then it took air away. Medieval people feared many things: war, hunger, plague. But this sickness felt different. It did not arrive in waves. It arrived one breath at a time, and when it finished, the house fell silent. In medieval times, pneumonia was not understood as an illness with a cause inside the body. It was seen as something that came from the outside world: cold air, moist ground, night winds. People believed these forces slowly entered the chest and weakened it from within. When a person began coughing, it was not always taken seriously. Coughing was common. Cold was everywhere. But when the cough became deep and heavy, fear followed. Breathing sounded wet. The chest moved with effort. Each breath took longer than the last. People noticed these signs. They had seen them before. They did not know the lungs were filling with fluid. They only knew that air was disappearing. The sick were kept inside. Doors were closed. Windows were sealed. Families believed cold air would finish what it had started. Fires burned constantly. Smoke filled the room. The air grew thick. Ironically, this made breathing even harder. In poorer homes, space was limited. Several people slept in one room, sometimes on the same bed. When one person became ill, others soon followed. Children were especially vulnerable. Their bodies were small. Their breathing was already fast and shallow. Once pneumonia reached them, it moved quickly. Elders suffered in silence. Years of cold winters had weakened their chests. Many already struggled to breathe before falling ill. When pneumonia arrived, there was little resistance left. Communities noticed patterns. Deaths increased during cold seasons. More bodies were buried after long winters. People began to associate the illness with time and place. Winter, damp homes, dark rooms. These ideas shaped belief. Healers were called when hope remained. They arrived with confidence and tradition. They believed illness came from imbalance inside the body. Too much blood, too much cold, too much moisture. To fix this, blood was removed. The patient grew weaker. Hot stones were pressed against the chest. The heat was meant to drive cold away. Herbs were burned so smoke could be inhaled. The smell filled the room. Breathing became harder. Food was sometimes withheld. It was believed digestion stole strength from healing. The body, already fighting for air, was pushed further. Some survived, many did not. When a patient died, the healer was not blamed. Death was expected. Pneumonia had earned its reputation. Medieval cities made the illness stronger. Streets were narrow and crowded. Waste filled the air. Homes were built close together. Light rarely reached inside. Moisture stayed trapped in walls and floors. Clothing dried slowly. Beds stayed damp. During winter, people stayed indoors for months. Fresh air was feared. Movement was limited. In these conditions, breathing problems were common. Coughing echoed through houses. Fever spread quietly. When one house fell silent, another soon followed. People fled cities during outbreaks. They believed open land would save them. Sometimes it did. Often it did not. The illness had already entered their chests. Fear of pneumonia shaped daily behavior. People avoided night air. They covered their heads and chests. Wet hair was seen as dangerous. Mothers warned children not to breathe cold air deeply. Fathers sealed windows tightly. Cold was not discomfort, it was threat. Stories spread quickly, of a man who spoke in the evening and was dead by morning, of a child who coughed once and never woke again, of an elder who slowly lost breath over days. These stories carried warning. The sound of breathing became something people listened for. Heavy breaths caused concern. Silence caused panic. Families stayed awake at night, listening, waiting for the next breath, counting the seconds. When breathing stopped, there was no confusion. They knew what had happened. Pneumonia did not need explanation. Its pattern was familiar. It did not rage like plague. It did not wound like war. It waited. It weakened. It took breath. This made it terrifying. People feared visible threats less than invisible ones. Cold could not be seen. Air could not be controlled. Once the chest was taken, the body followed. Medieval people accepted many deaths, but pneumonia felt cruel. It gave hope before taking it away. It allowed days of waiting, days of fear. By the time the end came, everyone was exhausted. The body stopped fighting, the chest fell still, and another quiet death was added to winter. The final stage of pneumonia was quiet. There was no violence, no blood, only the slow loss of breath. As the chest filled, breathing became shallow. Lips turned blue. Eyes grew tired. The body worked harder for less air. People described it as drowning without water. The chest rose, then stopped. Most deaths came at night, when the world was still, when no help could be found. This is why medieval people feared this illness so deeply. It did not announce itself. It did not rush. It waited. Winter became a season of fear. Every cough carried doubt. Every fever raised questions. Was this just cold, or the beginning of the end? Communities changed their habits because of it. People stayed indoors longer. They sealed windows. They avoided night air. Cold became an enemy, not discomfort. In stories passed down, pneumonia was remembered as a thief, a silent force that took life without warning. It spared no class. Kings and peasants died the same way, quietly, in bed. Without knowledge, people blamed what they could see: cold, moisture, darkness. They could not fight what they could not understand. For centuries, pneumonia remained one of the most feared causes of death, not because of pain, but because of how quietly it ended life. No cry for help, no final struggle, just a breath that never returned. In the medieval world, this illness shaped fear itself. It taught people that death did not always come loudly. Sometimes it came on cold air and left nothing behind but silence.